Welcome to Fringe, the People Forward Network home show where we spotlight bold voices in leadership. I'm Lucy, the podcast production manager here at PFN. On Fringe, we celebrate the power of great conversations that move people forward. With that, we invite podcast hosts, even those outside of our own network, to share leadership episodes they consider their favorite. These are the moments that they're most proud of, and we're here to amplify this greatness. Our goal is to shine a light on meaningful voices, broaden the reach of important ideas, and connect you with conversations that can spark change. It's one more way that we live out our mission, helping people experience meaningful work. I hope you love this episode, and if you do, go follow their show.
Hey, and welcome back to this episode of the Leading Adam podcast. You get just Adam and I today. We've been having guests this season, but Adam's been doing a lot of conversations and a lot of research with leaders, unpacking societal norms and through leader coaching sessions. And we are so excited to unpack that for you today. And of course, have a practical application that you can take with you and just to observe. So enjoy the episode. Thank you.
The Leading Adam podcast is hosted by me, Adam Binkerd. I've spent the last 10 years researching how a healthy human experience is the key to innovation in student retention and education, and now I'm taking to the mic to share what I've learned. Hear how I've defied the odds and transformed from a landscaper to a national expert in student success in less than 10 years. Not an educator? That's okay. Stay tuned for entertaining stories and practical takeaways about leading self, leading leaders, and leading culture. The Leading Adam podcast is co-hosted by Erica Crabtree, produced by Chris Spangle, and sponsored by 240 Solutions. Connect with us at 240solutions.com. And I hope you'll stay tuned because together we can change the world. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Coffee.
Coffee in hand.
Just you and me this morning.
I know, a little different from what we've been doing so far this season.
A little bit. You know, we had the goal to have a guest every episode, and we were doing really well. But it does get difficult to schedule between the two of us, a guest, and the studio.
Yeah.
But hey, that's okay. I'm looking forward to just having a little bit of time just to kind of unpack some stuff.
Right. And you've been, this is perfect because you've been doing a lot of coaching recently and
a lot.
I saw your calendar earlier. It's a little scary.
A lot. I think I've got
excited.
Just in February alone, I've got somewhere around 30.
Oh my goodness.
Or February, I'm sorry, March. We're in March. Around 30. I've got another 40 or 50 coming in April and May.
That's amazing.
It's really taking off. So I've been coaching a lot.
Mm-hmm. So, and specifically, I'm excited for us to just kind of unpack that a little bit because specifically you've been working with executives and leaders on working through the leader evaluation, which is unique to 240 Solutions.
Yeah.
And I know we don't want to make this a promotional podcast, so maybe that's, the last we mention of it. But we would be remiss to not at least mention that and talk about that just a little bit.
We use the leader eval, but the intent is to quantify something that it's hard to get your head around. We coach from a different perspective, and I'm always trying to help bring the subconscious into the conscious, and that's the intent of the coaching more than maybe a traditional. What are you trying to achieve? What's your barriers? That's important too. I don't take away from that, but I'm trying to improve leadership as it pertains to a healthy human experience, and that's different.
Yeah, and so if you could just explain a little bit what the leader evaluation is, because it is a pretty generic term in terms of what that is, and my when I first heard that, it's like, is it a test? Like, what does it do? But I mean, just like you said, what you're discovering and what I'm excited to unpack today are those really subconscious things that aren't necessarily talked about or identified in organizational culture, or as I've, gone through my career and talked about leadership and experienced leadership type development things, those items that we're going to talk about, like really have never been a part of that. It's kind of mind blowing, really.
Yeah. I'm excited about the leader eval, but I think to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, you have to first understand or remember that the most important thing to me, like philosophically, is a healthy human experience. So with any assessment that anyone puts together, you have to understand that it is holding to a belief, right? And so it's seeking to find evidence to support that belief. And so starting there and working backwards, the leader eval is intended to measure threats to a healthy human experience. That's where it starts. And so the threats to a healthy human experience are a lot of different things. But where I started that was different and why I coach the way that I coach using the tool is because I've never met a leader who doesn't agree with the kind of the broad view of treating people like people, right? So if I were to sit down with 100 leaders and ask, is it important as a leader to be an effective leader to care about the humans that you lead?
Yeah.
100% of them say absolutely. Right. And then just observing that and going through my education and recognizing that everybody agrees with this, but I'd say a high percentage, 85% or more, then turn around and kind of piss on the human experience the next day at work. And that creates a dissonance in me. Like, what the heck is happening here?
Yeah. Do you feel like that's intentional or unintentional?
Absolutely not. And I think that's what I've come to understand is that the majority of leaders are unintentionally wrecking the human experience. They don't even know it's happening. There's very few percentage of leaders that are maliciously targeting, micromanaging, competing. Like very few percent. The large percentage of this that is damaging to the human experience in a team is pure ignorance. And I mean that in the most clinical way.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yeah.
And so me being me, I'm thinking, how do we know? Is there a way to know? What are we trying to know? And how do we measure it if we know what we're trying to know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That was a lot of knowing.
No, right? Know what we're trying to know. How do we know it? What do we know? Yeah. So when it comes to this leader evaluation, can you describe a little bit, like, what is that measuring? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So what we're trying to discover and doing successfully is subconscious influence to one's leadership. And so the intent is to bring in to the known what is unknown to the individual. And so oftentimes I would say, if you were to interview a team, the unknown to the leader is known to the team. Right. So you kind of start into this a little bit like a hint to the Johari window kind of a thing, right? Where how do we bring what the team knows into the conscious of what the leader is aware of? Yeah. So that behavioral change that's meaningful to the healthy human experience can happen. And so, again, it kind of started with, which we've talked about. I have 2 master's degrees in leadership, my doctoral coursework done in leadership. I've focused a lot on leadership and then recognizing in that process that there's this variance. So many people say yes, 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 and then turn around and do the opposite. And so in that, it's like, well, where's that coming from? And that the importance of what got me here is relative to where I started, which is way, way off of leadership.
Yeah. When you mention subconscious things that are happening that an individual may or may not be aware of even, I mean, those things, could those stem from things like trauma, how you were raised?
Yeah.
Prior experiences, lived experiences that are operating, at that subconscious level.
Yeah. And that's really what kind of started, that married the 2 thoughts, right? So I'm getting my education in leadership, but I have a history of addiction and recovery. More importantly, a history of recovery. Right. In recovery, I had to wrestle down some things. And so it's relative to understand where I began in my my journey with addiction is at the age of 15, I was sexually assaulted by a male. Okay, so in that, there becomes a trauma moment that begins to offer me opportunities. And I made choices based on those opportunities that led me to 13-year battle with addiction. Okay, so in that process, I had to work back through all of the things, because 13 years later when I entered recovery, this beginning instance was super present in my mind. I hadn't forgotten it.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But a lot had happened between then and recovery. And so you start in recovery and you work back and you learn principles along the way about what recovery is and what the reality of someone struggling with addiction or life controlling behavior brings. And one of those principles, Erica, you've probably heard, it's pretty popular one-liner, and it's hurting people hurt people. Right. So this is relatively popular, and recognizing in my recovery, one of the hardest parts of recovering for me was recognizing that statistically, because of what happened to me when I was 15 years old, I had a higher probability of becoming a sexual predator. Like, that's hard to reconcile for someone who lived through the hell of sexual assault and think, I have a higher probability to be a sexual predator for real.
Right.
Like, I'm more capable than someone else to put someone through the hell of that because I experienced it. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Right. And so statistically, that's true. So if you research abuse, for example, emotional, mental, verbal, physical, and sexual abuse as a whole, then people that have been abused are up to 6 times more likely to become an abuser.
Right.
And that's a pretty egregious thing, right? It's you don't look at that logically and go, "Oh, that makes sense." No, it doesn't make sense. And if you think it makes sense, you've probably never been abused, right? Because again, I have been abused. And I look at that and go, how is that possible? And I think that's when that reality met the dissonance I'm experiencing by watching leaders agree, say the right things, even teach the right things. Some of my professors, and then turn around and do something that damages the human experience.
Yeah.
It kind of harkened back to this idea that hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of started, is if that can be true, that an abused person is up to 6 times is more likely to become an abuser, then how much more true is it possible that my experiences from my parents, my coaches, my teachers, my supervisors up to this point are influencing subconsciously the way that I lead people.
Right. Yeah. And from that perspective, and first of all, thank you for sharing that part of your life. And that's such an extreme example of that, but I can see the steps where it's something more minor, as a way that, you were brought up, or things that you heard repeatedly growing up or in your early life, and how those things seem harmless, but play out through your adult life in different ways. And you may or may not be aware of how that's impacting the people around you, or in this context, your team that you're leading.
Yeah, there's so much in my story, which I've had the privilege of sharing all over the country. And I love sharing it. It's hard because afterwards there's a lot that comes with that.
Sure.
Reliving it, part of it, but hearing other people's stories is probably the harder part, right? And then feeling a sense of obligation to carry that with them.
Yeah.
Right? That's difficult. But I couldn't be more grateful. And I've said this so many times, and I don't know that people really understand this about me. I don't live with regret. It's a waste of time. I'm not proud of the choices I made. Don't get me wrong. I've made some horrible choices, and I'm grateful that I'm not dead or in prison, because I deserve both. And for me to be doing what I'm doing now, and it being influenced by the very atrocity that happened to me when I was 15 years old, that I didn't ask for, I didn't seek, and I didn't deserve, is just like God. And I know this podcast is not a faith-oriented podcast, but I don't really care because we pay for it, right? The reality of this is that God takes something that was meant to destroy my life and turns it into something that probably is going to help many, many leaders unpack the things that are causing them to subconsciously abuse the human experience in their teams. Because as I'm coaching, when someone becomes conscious of it, the almost sheer responsibility that you can see wash over their face, and they realize, oh no, I'm doing something that I would never consciously support. And I didn't even know I was doing it. That is a powerful moment that allows me to look back to the hell that I lived through in that experience and say, it was worth it. And that's crazy, right? That is absolutely absurd. But the reality of it, that's matters to me. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping leaders I think I have a perspective. I think God created me in a way to understand and unpack things that are just different. Like who else, has anyone else thought to try to measure the subconscious influence of leadership? I don't know. And I hope they have. But if they haven't, I am. And I'm really going to drive hard to understand it.
And so within this, as we were talking about this, you're looking for, right now you have 20 different social norms that this is looking at. What are some of first of all, how would you, what are you describing as, how are you defining social norms, and how the heck did you come up with 20 different variations? So it didn't start with 20, that's for sure. And we're still discovering them. But I would correct one thing. They're not social norms. Social indicates a norm between you and another person. They're societal norms. Societal, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking like sociology kind of perspective. And what are some things that society holds as generally true for leadership? And that's kind of how it started. But it started really with one. There was one primary thing, and then trying to get leaders to understand that. And so just as an example, the one that stood out, because it was just like a sore thumb kind of a thing, is this kind of societal held belief that leaders are supposed to have the answers and solve problems. That bleeds into leadership pertaining to a healthy human experience in a really unhealthy way. And so it kind of started with this one and going, okay, why is that happening? Because again, you can ask that leader and they will tell you, oh no, I don't know everything. I need my team. They're really sharp. But then you turn around and you exclude them from stuff, or you just constantly are solving and giving answers. What's happening there? Right. And that's really where it started. So we've gone from 1 now to 20 observed, and their impact to the human experience is variable. Some are really high, negative impact, and some are relatively standard. But I think all are worthy of moving from subconscious to conscious. Right. So,
yeah. And do you think that those norms, and I would really quantify those or in terms of criteria, like really unique to American culture? Do you think that these societal norms would vary across different like generations or regions even, or, cultural differences? Like how do you...
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think the evidence, the research is too early to know. My hypothesis is yes. I feel 100% certain that it would differ from regions, right? So if you're in Russia, Ukraine versus U.S., for sure, there's different norms, right? That people have been exposed to. The same would be true about South America or anywhere else. So I think that one is relatively certain. I think I'm starting to see trends emerge in the data at this point relative to generations, which is really interesting. We had Dr. Gilbert on, Jillian, and she has spent a lot of time studying this. Yeah. So I took the time to go ahead and schedule with her because I want to talk through this more. I think there's going to be something in there that is going to emerge, and I think the norms will change.
Yeah.
So this isn't a one and done kind of research. I think this is something that over time begins to morph. And as she talked a lot about Gen Z, their experiences coming up are a lot different than Gen X. So it's going to introduce new norms that we're going to have to pay attention to. And I think that's ever evolving. I think what happens, Erica, is that the norms will go from 20 to 50, but we'll see some of these older ones become less and less prevalent in the workforce because they were kind of generationally birthed. And I think they'll fade.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the societal norms, you think about where we've seen those before, like how those societal norms came about, right? It's like you said, it's observed behaviors that we've seen in the workplace, on television, in movies, how leadership roles play out. And so those are always evolving.
Yeah, because
always
the
changing.
media is evolving, parenting styles are evolving.
Yeah.
The home structure is evolving, right? I grew up in a 2-parent home.
Yeah.
That was the majority of my friends.
Yeah.
Well, that's so different now. So it definitely is changing, and I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah.
But again, it's important to understand that we're looking at this through the lens of which of these norms are negatively impacting the human experience. So I think it's probably worth taking a couple of the norms and looking at it from both sides. Because let's just take the first one, and then maybe you've got some that you picked off the report.
Right.
But let's take that first one that we talked about, that we identified. Leaders, society would say, is a good way to say this. So when we list the norms, it would say leaders have the answers to solve problems. That's the norm. But all of the norms can be kind of positioned or given context by saying society might say, or society generally believes that leaders have the answers or solve problems. If you take that at face value, you can look at it and go, that's actually a good thing. I don't think anybody is saying, I wish my leader was incompetent.
Right.
Right? Nobody wants that.
Well, you expect a leader to have a certain level of experience and wisdom or education or combined, experiences to have.
Right.
Be able
and
to
that's
have
what we're
answers.
finding really with all the norms. And that's why I want to see what you picked out of the report we can talk about, because all of them you can look at it and go, yeah, that's actually good. There's an element of good in the norm. But like anything else, moderation is important.
Right.
And when we think of the human experience, that's where we typically get it, is these things become out of balance. And so when a leader begins to take on so much of this hero mentality, I have the answers, I've solved the problems, I'm the go-to person, then your curiosity is diminished. And when your curiosity diminishes, you are just crapping all over belonging and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And for sure, shared purpose.
Yeah,
because if you have the answers, why should I speak?
Right. And that feels a little bit too like self-preservation.
Yeah, right.
Like, well, if I start letting my team have answers, then what's going to happen with my role?
Well, and is it possible it's an identity crisis?
Yeah.
Right. More, because self-preservation is such a selfish motive. But I think identity is probably more of a subconscious and selfless motive. I'm not trying to be defensive or possessive, but this is who I am.
Yeah.
Having the answers is who I've become. Yeah, there's so much. And, I love psychology and I like sociology, and my experiences lend me to look at things differently.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Is there a norm that you look, like you saw the report?
I did.
You have not done the leader eval.
I have not.
You have not.
I have not.
But you've seen the report that people get when we do this. Is there something that jumped off in there for you?
Maybe one little one. So if you want something done right, do it yourself. I think that was most convicting to me in my personal life. Sometimes also work life. It's hard to delegate.
Yeah.
It takes time to, sometimes, and I do this all the time at home. It's probably the worst where I'm seeing it there. It takes more time for me to teach one of my kids how to do something.
Yes.
Or the dishwasher. Let's just use that as an example.
A nice, simple one.
It's like Tetris to me. I love loading the dishwasher, getting everything packed in there, and making sure that there's no dishes left in the sink. Right. So that's my motivation. But trying to get the rest of my family to pack it in the way that makes sense to me. So I'll just do it myself, and then it's done right.
That's a nice, simple example. And I think I say all the time, the easiest way to understand something complex is to oversimplify it or over exaggerate it. So when I talked earlier about abuse, that's kind of blowing this out and going, okay, well, gosh, that's kind of harsh. I don't want to think about it like that.
Yeah.
That's over exaggeration. This is a great example to kind of oversimplify the thing. And I think what we're going to find, first and foremost, this one of if you want something done right, do it yourself, I believe is going to fade with the generations. I think this kind of thing was really drilled into Gen X. I think boomers, this was hardcore.
Yeah.
And I think it's tied to the way we viewed work ethic. But
I would agree with that.
I don't think it's going away. And here's why. I think that there is a strong root of this that is connected to personality type. And so if you want something done right, do it yourself, starts to sound like, if you're an Enneagram fan, the reformer, a number one, the perfectionist, right? And so you start adding this in, and it's not the issue that they can't get all of the dishes in the dishwasher. It's that they can't get them in there the way that you would do it, right?
Right.
And that becomes a challenge. And when we're leaders in that mentality of if you want something done right, do it yourself, that norm, societal norm, is influencing us subconsciously, then I look and say, that's only 80% of the quality I could achieve. The 80% will get it done. Kevin Wachtel was on, Dr. Wachtel.
Yeah.
He had a saying I loved, Gitmo, good enough to move on.
Yeah.
And that was so important in us being able to execute the strategic plan. Leaders struggle with that are being influenced by this norm because they're like, yeah, but it's not perfect.
Right.
But, well, okay, it's not going to be perfect out of the gate. We can get to perfection later. So that's an interesting one. I do think that one is probably going to fade more with the generation, though.
Makes sense. And one thing I wanted to just kind of hit on before we talk about more of these is, at the start of this, we talked about the leader evaluation, but we don't need to take the leader evaluation necessarily to look for these as we go about our day-to-day life, right?
Yeah, I think it goes back to ignorance, right?
Yeah.
The only way to overcome ignorance is really education. And the only way to do that is to make a personal decision to learn. How did I come to this? I started observing within myself and with others. So that requires a little bit of emotional intelligence. But I think you're right. It's every session that I have with someone around this, because it's important to know, because there may be someone listening going, I want to take the leader eval. Okay, fine. But it's not a thing you take and get a report. This is a thing you take and then have a conversation. Because this is not a standard report. It's not a standard measurement. And so in that, every session ends with the exact same directive. Don't change anything. And I think that catches people off guard, because isn't that the point of coaching? And I disagree. I think the point of coaching in this is awareness. And what we need to do is then pause after something has been potentially moved from subconscious to my conscious. I need to pause and say, I'm going to go about life as normal, but I'm going to observe now and pay attention to what you've identified. Does it show up? Because the reality is every assessment has the risk of being wrong. I think what's interesting about this is a lot of people look at it and go, I don't think that's right. And then they'll circle back and go, well, it turns out you were right. Well, I wasn't right about anything. It's your particular input that generates this. And so I think you're right. You don't have to take an evaluation to begin paying attention differently. But at the same time, there's a lot. This is more than a decade's worth of observation to find 20 norms. Right. So there is some value in it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really practical to go, okay, one, listen to this conversation. We're going to hit a couple more. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, take 90 days and see if the 2 or 3 that we've talked about or however many we get to show up in your leadership, or do you observe them in others? And if you do, don't tell them. Don't do that. Like, don't do that to people, you know? But yeah, I think it's really practical. Like, let's just self-reflect.
Right.
What am I doing that I might not be aware of?
Yeah. It's a really practical way. Just reflect on what those could be, bring those from the subconscious to the conscious level. So that awareness piece is key.
Yeah.
And then just observe.
Yeah. So let's throw one out that is, that'll make people's stomach turn. So let me look right at you. If you have experienced via parenting or supervision in your career, micromanaging that was pretty obvious and extreme, there's a really good chance, a really good probability that elements of micromanaging are bleeding into your leadership. That's what we're talking about. The self-reflection looks back and says, what about my experience as a team member, as a follower, was negative from a human experience? It made me feel like I didn't matter. It made me feel like the work I did didn't matter. It made me feel devalued or unseen or unheard.
Yeah.
Think of those things and then just accept that it's possible you are doing that to other people. And I think every time I have this conversation with someone, they're like, I would never. Well, I'd never become a sexual predator either, but my probability was higher. And for me to deny that makes me build my development, my recovery in this case, but my development of leader on a lie. Because then I say, well, I experienced, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to avoid it with everything in me. Statistics disagree with you. And to ignore the mathematical equations that come to this conclusion is pure ignorance. In fact, it's beyond that, stupidity. And I think that's why we don't self-reflect in this. So it's like, well, Adam, I can't sit here and imagine norms. You don't have to. Just think of the things that made you feel like a piece of crap as an employer, and then accept or as an employee, and accept the reality that it's very possible that is bleeding into my leadership. And it is your responsibility to try to change that now. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
So obviously we're not going to cover all 20 norms.
Right.
But that's a good way to at least start, because that's kind of how it started for us.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And I'm curious what you're seeing through the work that you've done. Like, what are you seeing as, like the top 3, let's say, that are coming up repeatedly?
Number one, hands down, is the one that we mentioned. I think it's such a strong presence. Leaders have the answers to solve problems. You mentioned movies, media. I mean, just think about that culture. Superhero movies, action movies, love stories.
Yeah.
The character that is the, leader in this typically is the go-to. They have answers. They have solutions, and they are the hero. So that one's really prevalent, and I think it's worse because of media and the way that Hollywood presents this kind of thing. Right? It would be pretty boring action movie.
Well, I would say for some reason my brain goes directly to like the Marvel movies and like Iron Man, and like, who would Iron Man be if he just sat back and let his team do all the work?
Pulled in a group of constituents to get their perspective on the alien invasion.
He wouldn't be Iron Man.
Yeah, nobody's going to watch that. But the reality, again, that's why it's important to go, well, the most important thing here is not execution. It is not effectiveness. It is a healthy human experience. So let me give you an example, and then I'll tell you the other, maybe a couple more that are really top.
Okay.
So my daughter came to me a couple weeks ago. She works professionally as a case manager for a youth DOC. Okay. So she came to me, and she was just kind of venting, if you will, processing with me, because she knows what I do about work. And she's like, "Hey, they motivate by fear. I just don't know when they're going to realize it doesn't work." And I said, whoa, hold on. It works. Yeah. That's why they do it. But it's not sustainable. Andrew Adeniyi talked about this a little bit, I believe, in our episode, that it's it's one of those things that it happens because it works. But that's where we can draw a line and go, effective and a healthy human experience don't have to be in the same place. A healthy human experience always leads to effective, but effective does not always lead to a healthy human experience.
Right.
And you can see it in that way. That's why we say, well, this is the highest goal, a healthy human experience, because productivity, profitability, all of that, statistically and by empirical research, is shown to improve under a healthy human experience.
Yeah.
So another one, Erica, that's really popular is trying to think how it's worded. My team knows what matters. They're adults. This is pretty popular.
That was another one of my favorites on there.
So what do you think when you hear it? What do you think it means?
I think it's just making assumptions about how people, adults, are expected to behave, or that they know, they should know just because they're grown-ups, I guess, but that may or may not always be the case.
Well, I think, so what we see, let's look at the positive first, because I said all of them have a positive component.
Yeah.
The positive in this
could look like autonomy.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks and says, you're an intelligent adult that has value to bring. I want to give you autonomy.
Yeah.
And then when out of balance, what it diminishes is shared purpose, and it diminishes our belonging, because I'm at a place where I'm going, well, I don't need to tell you why we're doing this. It's just a part of the job. But that why helps build value in the fact that I matter and what we're doing matters. And so we begin to miss that, because our healthy belief that autonomy is important turned into an unhealthy state that says you should just know, and you should do it because you know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I, as I'm envisioning that, it also could make that employee feel like, well, maybe I can't ask questions, because then it would seem like I don't know. I can't be vulnerable and say that I'm not sure, or I need help with this. I'm supposed to be doing this on my own.
Everyone else apparently knows.
Right.
They're doing it.
Everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of it in that view. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Let's hit one more that I'm seeing emerge in the data that we have is blanket corrections are acceptable and effective. This one, I see this one quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it is, I don't know if it's confusing to people at first, but we put this in there because this is actually one of the original three. So we kind of had this kind of start, and this was one that was observed because we were watching teams. So when you have a department or a team of people that by and large do the same basic job, right? They may have different focuses within that job, but by and large, they do the same basic job. Then it seems prudent and justified when there is a mistake that's made by an employee or two on the team to say, you know what, everybody needs to be reminded.
Right.
And so you do an email blast, or you bring it up in the team meeting. You say, hey, just a reminder, everybody, we need to make sure we're filling in this box in this manner, because when we don't, it messes the system up down the line and we're creating issues. Well, what happens in that is, and again, there's a value there.
Yeah.
The value is consistency, and the value is process that's held. That there's nothing wrong with that. It's a devalue to the human experience, because the one or two that know they've made that mistake and they're still making it feel called out. And now suddenly they feel like everybody knows and everybody's talking about me, which makes me feel really, really foolish. And now I'm humiliated.
Yeah.
Foolishness and humiliation are not a good part of a healthy human experience.
Right.
And then the other side of it is just like church volunteering. You know, that some pastor gets up on the platform and says, we need volunteers. We got to cover the nurse. We got to do this. The only people that hear that announcement are those who are actually already volunteering. And then they go, I guess I can do more. And so the same principle is true in this. And that's, again, the social norms. You can see these things play out in other situations. those who are sitting in that room and a blanket correction or direction or statement is made, they're going, I can do better. I can be better. And they put stress on themselves, and you're going, that's not a healthy part of a human experience either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are probably the three that we're seeing emerge. There's more egregious ones, of course, but those are the most popular at this point.
Well, and that one too, with a blanket correction across the team, from a leader's perspective, feels like, okay, I'm going to provide some training. I'm going to, keep everybody informed and updated.
Right.
Which feel like good things. Except, just in the example you gave, those one or two employees who are actually having that problem. Maybe there's a reason why they're having that, to really understand there's something to go beyond that and really have more of a one-on-one conversation and say, hey, Adam, I noticed that, you keep missing this step, which is a really important part of the process. Like, tell me, let's talk about that. And maybe there's some source, root problem that is causing Adam to forget this part of the process. And I'm always curious about the why behind that.
Well, I think in that example, it's really easy to go, that person in hearing that is likely just processing it as try harder.
Yeah. And
there may be legitimate barriers
that
are keeping them from actually executing whatever the case or the situation is. And it's prudent and it's human to sit down and go, here's where we need to be. We're not there. What's going on? Like, that's a human conversation. And that is a part of a healthy human experience. So yeah, you're pinpointing right on. And all of them have threads to that kind of thing. And again, these are happening in our subconscious. And I think we may be onto something here that can help us overcome this gap of knowledge without wisdom. Right? Knowledge is a collection of information, and we've got enough books on leadership by now that if we don't know what good leadership looks like, that's a problem. But wisdom is the application of that knowledge. And I think the application of that knowledge is being held up by something we're not even conscious of. And so I believe that what we're on will enhance wisdom, the ability to apply what we know about leading by bringing what's subconscious into our conscious. And at that point, all I have is an obligation to do something about it. And I can't own something I'm not aware of. So that's the goal, is to, for me, when I sit down in a coaching situation, which again, we started this, I'm doing a lot of that. When I sit down in that conversation, it's to help them see that there are buckets. And, the report has these buckets on us, 3 buckets. That bucket is measuring the capacity that you have to execute that particular trait. And then what the tool is helping us understand is how societal norms are drawing down on that capacity. It doesn't mean you're a bad leader. We're not measuring good or bad.
Right.
We're measuring the reality of influence of societal norms.
Yeah.
And that is encouraging to people because it says you're capable. Here's some things that might be in your way of maximizing your own capacity.
I like that word that you use, and just to highlight that again, is these are not good or bad. And like we talked about earlier, we're assuming, all leaders have, for the vast majority, all leaders have good intentions. They want what's best for their people. They want to lead the best. They care about their work. And so, these societal norms that we're highlighting have good intentions as the root, but an overextension or sometimes that balance gets off a little bit, or those show up in ways that we don't maybe not are fully aware of, that can negatively impact the human experience. So they're not good or bad.
Right.
They just are.
They just are.
They just exist.
And to look at a leader and say, I believe you're good. Most conversations are looking to explore your mistakes. Like, how can we improve your leadership? I'm looking to look at you in the face and say, I believe inherently you're good and you want good and you want the best for people.
Yeah.
That starts the conversation completely different.
Yeah. So let's maximize that.
Let's maximize it. But the coach has to start there. I have to first believe that people are inherently good. And I do. I genuinely believe that. And the goal then is to remove the barriers that are preventing you from maximizing your own goodness. And that is, in my lens, a very purposeful action. And it fulfills me and brings me great joy to end a session with someone who says, I think I know how to let more of my good out. Right? Instead of going, well, I know what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
It's how do I pour more good into the world? Well, just open the funnel a little bit more. And realize there's some things that are plugging. I didn't realize were there.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Do we want to mention, just to kind of recap some of the ones that you've mentioned so far?
Sure. We've talked about leaders having the answers or solving the problems. That's a big one. We've talked about this belief that my team knows what matters because they're adults. And then lastly, we talked about blanket corrections are acceptable and effective. Those are the three that we really hit.
And then, I mentioned if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Right. That's a big one.
A big one. And then I had a couple more that I had written down. So one that I thought was interesting, my team knows that they're integral to the work. So the assumption that they know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a values thing, right? They realize that they're critical to this because I said it once. But that's not how we work as humans.
Right.
They need to know again. They need to know why it's critical. And this comes in, we've talked about when you do handwritten cards.
Yeah.
Don't be vague. Glad you're here. Fantastic. What a useless card. You just wasted ink and paper. But glad you're here and referencing something specific that they did. And this is one of those things, I'm going to tie this. One of the others is that you can affirm too much.
Oh,
that's a societal norm. And to tag onto that one, another one is that affirmation of a bad employee makes them worse. So these things kind of work in tandem, and that's one of the things we're seeing too is they're interlaced. And so very, very rarely is one operating solely. But when you start bringing this in and you go, okay, my team knows they're integral to the work. Okay, I need to tell them. And then when you look at the affirming, the value of affirming an employee, what we've got to look at then is when I remind them of the integral part of their participation, I need to know how best to affirm. Because when I affirm a skill, that has about say a 60-minute shelf life, right? But if I affirm your character, your attitude, or your mindset, I've just gotten a couple weeks out of that one.
Yeah.
Right? Because you care more about that than you do your skill. Like, I don't care how accurate I put stuff in a spreadsheet.
Right.
Thanks. But when you say the quality with which you do your work demonstrates for me that you have higher integrity, now I walk in every day and go, how do I protect my integrity?
Yeah.
Right. And it informs the way I do my job. So again, there's so much under this, and that's why these sessions are so valuable. I love getting this to people as they walk through their own realizations.
Yeah.
It's so much fun for me.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot of coaching. I know you asked because we've been talking about it. It seems every time we talk, I'm like, well, I'm back to back today.
Right.
Which is a good thing and also sometimes exhausting.
Yeah. No, but a good exhaustion. And it's, it was fun to just kind of hear what you've been learning and kind of unpack this a little bit and think through some of these. I mean, even myself.
Yeah. Well, we're committed to continuing. It's a research project as much as it is a business venture. And I think the more we can understand about this stuff, the more valuable we can, or more impact, we can bring to leader development and growth. And what a valuable piece to add to society. So
absolutely,
we're hoping to get there. And anyone, of course, that has questions, 240solutions.com, you can reach out to us that way, or comment on YouTube. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Maybe you know a norm that you wonder is in the thing, and you want to ask about it. Go for it. We'd love to hear it.
Awesome.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining us here at the Leading Adam podcast. We hope you found inspiration and hope to see you again next time. Leave us a comment on YouTube Or if you have an idea for a future episode, let us know that too. You can connect with us at 240solutions.com. Thanks, and we hope to see you again next time.